In Washington, the House of Representatives has passed a sweeping legislative package aimed at implementing President Donald Trump's domestic agenda. The measure, titled the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, cleared the chamber by a narrow 218 to 214 vote. The passage followed a marathon, all-night session as Republican leadership worked to secure the support of several party holdouts who had initially derailed an attempt to advance the 940-page bill. The legislation is now on its way to the president's desk, and he is expected to sign it into law ahead of a self-imposed July 4th deadline. The bill is multifaceted, enacting many of the administration's key policy goals. It includes significant tax cuts, boosts spending for national defense, and allocates substantial new funding for border security. At the same time, the act also moves to phase out clean energy tax credits, marking a significant shift in the nation's energy policy. The late-night maneuvering and the razor-thin margin of the vote underscore the challenges faced in uniting the party behind the comprehensive measure. But its passage marks a major legislative victory for the administration. A significant portion of that bill is dedicated to immigration and border security, a policy area already seeing dramatic shifts across the country. Migrant shelters and processing facilities are closing their doors in large numbers, a development the White House attributes to its stringent border crackdown. This trend is visible from coast to coast. In Arizona, 2 shelters in Pima County closed in January. In San Diego, the Jewish Family Service shelter shut down in February, citing policy changes. In Texas, the large San Antonio-based Migrant Resource Center, which opened in 2022, also closed in February due to a sharp decline in people crossing into the United States. The effect is also being felt on the East Coast, where New York City has closed 63 migrant shelters this year, and Massachusetts has seen its number of shelters plummet from over 120 in 2024 to just 4. The White House is touting what it calls the Trump effect, with an aide stating that shelters are shuttering because migrants are no longer being released into the country. This is supported by data from Customs and Border Protection. Apprehensions at the southern border dropped to just over 6,000 in June, with 0 releases recorded in either May or June. On one day, June 28th, there were only 137 encounters along the entire southern border. In response, CBP has closed all of its temporary, soft-sided processing facilities in Texas, California, and Arizona, stating they are no longer needed. The new legislative bill aims to make this trend permanent, allocating roughly $170 billion to immigration enforcement. The funds are earmarked to hire at least 10,000 more ICE agents, more than double the detention capacity for those in deportation proceedings, and continue construction of the border wall. The administration promises the largest mass deportation campaign in American history will be carried out, a prospect that has drawn sharp criticism from opponents. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries warned during a record-breaking floor speech that a deportation machine will be unleashed on steroids. Beyond enforcement, some Republicans are looking to fundamentally change how representation and voting are structured. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced she is drafting a new bill that would introduce 2 major changes. First, it would mandate a new national census that counts only American citizens. The results of this new count would then be used to determine how many seats each state is allotted in the House of Representatives. Second, the bill would require proof of American citizenship to vote in all federal elections. Currently, the U.S. Census Bureau includes all residents, including non-citizens and unauthorized immigrants, in its decennial population count used for apportionment. This practice is based on the 14th Amendment, which states that representatives shall be apportioned based on counting the whole number of persons in each state. Shifting to a citizen-only count would almost certainly reshape the nation's political landscape. States with large non-citizen populations would likely lose House seats, while other states would gain them. This would in turn affect the Electoral College, as a state's number of electoral votes is tied directly to its congressional delegation size. Representative Green, who called the issue a matter of national security, stated that she has spoken with President Trump about her proposal and that he supports it. While Washington debates these legislative changes, a new report from J.P. Morgan is highlighting the potential economic costs of the administration's trade strategy. According to the financial giant's research, President Trump's current tariff policies could add an estimated $82.3 billion in import costs for mid-size U.S. businesses. The report warns that these companies are particularly vulnerable to a shifting trade landscape. Many mid-size firms, especially in the wholesale and retail sectors, operate on very thin profit margins and have a high reliance on imported goods. As a result, they may struggle to absorb the financial hit from increased tariffs. This is a significant concern because mid-size companies are a crucial part of the American economy, generating approximately 1/3 of the nation's private sector revenue and employment. The research, detailed in 2 separate reports, examines how the effects of tariffs are distributed across various industries, trading partners, and U.S. metropolitan areas. The findings underscore the specific vulnerabilities faced by this segment of the business community as trade policies continue to evolve. Finally, any new policies from the White House or Congress will now face a different legal landscape, following a landmark decision from the Supreme Court. The court recently closed out its 2024-2025 term with a series of high-profile rulings, but one stands out for its broad impact on judicial power. In a landmark opinion, the Supreme Court ruled against the practice of judges issuing nationwide injunctions. These are powerful court orders from a single federal judge that can block a government policy for the entire nation, not just for the specific parties involved in the lawsuit. The use of these injunctions had grown significantly under both the Biden and Trump administrations, prompting intense scrutiny and debate over whether individual judges were overstepping their authority and encroaching on the powers of the executive branch. The Supreme Court's decision effectively curtails this practice. Going forward, legal challenges to federal policies are more likely to have a localized effect, applying only within a judge's jurisdiction rather than halting a policy everywhere at once. This ruling fundamentally alters the dynamic of how executive orders and new laws are challenged in the court system, potentially slowing down and localizing legal battles against new federal initiatives.